Welcome to Rob Nagy's Rock and Roll Legacy. For more than 4 decades as a freelance music journalist, I had the honor and the privilege of interviewing countless music icons in rock and roll, jazz, R&B, and blues. It was a priceless journey that began in my late teens. I never imagined I would cross paths with many of my music heroes. Digging deep into my archives, I selected a 1995 interview I conducted with jazz guitar legend Larry Coryell, which I hope will be a memorable journey for you, the listener, and preserve his legacy for future generations. Citing Les Paul, Wes Montgomery, Kenny Burrell, and Tal Farlow as some of his biggest influences, Coryell frequented Manhattan's vibrant music scene while still in his 20s. Experiencing performances by Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, and Frank Zappa, among others, guitar prodigy Larry Coryell was determined to make a name for himself. Releasing his debut album Lady Coryell in 1969, Coryell caught the attention of the jazz community. Merging elements of psychedelic rock and jazz, he was praised by music critics and ultimately heralded as one of the godfathers of jazz fusion. In the decades to follow, Coryell would go on to release dozens of solo albums and collaborations, as well as guest appearances on recordings with Chet Baker, Sonny Rollins, Al Di Meola, and Billy Cobham. By the late 70s, Coryell solidified his standing as one of the best guitar players in the world. In 1979, he formed the guitar trio with John McLaughlin and Paco de Lucia. Struggles managing success, alcohol, and drug addiction took a toll on Coryell personally and professionally. Recognizing that he was on a path of destruction, he overcame his alcohol and heroin addiction in 1981, began practicing Buddhism, and never looked back. Coryell passed away in 2017 at the age of 73 in New York City. I had the pleasure of interviewing Larry Coryell throughout his career. You are about to hear an unscripted, never-before-broadcast interview I conducted with him in 1995 when he was touring in support of his album release, I'll Be Over You, featuring Peabo Bryson and Grover Washington Jr. For your listening pleasure, I give you the late Larry Coryell. Wonderful show.
Oh, thanks.
Wonderful show. What have you been up to lately? I mean, you're out on tour right now. What do you? How long is the tour going to last? And are you playing basically venues such as this?
Yeah, I'm doing basic. It's not really so much of a tour, but it's just going to various venues like this, quality clubs, and getting out in front of the public, while at the same time the record is released.
How's the record doing?
Oh, that's the airplay. It's a decidedly calculated, change in direction in terms of, we're aiming at a larger market, and Peabo Bryson is on it, and of course Grover is on it, and trying to get a wider audience. All right, there we go. Yeah, do you want me to sign that?
If you don't mind,
I'll be glad to. Is that the full copy? Does that have the liner notes in it and everything? Okay, good. I'll just sign this strange picture of me.
I got it. Do you want a Sharpie?
Yeah, Sharpie. All right.
I don't want to interrupt your... No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm used to it, so...
No, it sure is great to play in Philadelphia again.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I really enjoyed it. That was nice.
And
very
especially Sean Mann, and Nina.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
I blow on that a little bit so it doesn't smudge. Sean Mann and Nina are just fantastic.
Yeah.
Lovers of music.
Yeah.
Now, John, that's a very different record than I normally do. We got Peabo Bryson on it, and Grover. It's more funky.
Well, that sounds great.
It's a change in direction.
Yeah.
Especially when the tracks with Peabo are just super funky.
How did you get hooked up with Peabo and Grover? I mean, because those are
the
people
word.
that I wouldn't think of you
I
as
would have
working
asked you
with.
that too.
Well,
I'll listen.
Creed Taylor, a year ago when we sat down, started planning this record, he said, I want you to make a more pop-oriented, urban type record, and I think Peabo Bryson would love to guest on it, and I think Grover would love to guest on it. So he took care of Peabo, and I happened to be booked opposite Grover in Washington, D.C. last fall, and we got together backstage and started playing in the hall. And it was really swinging, just guitar and saxophone. And then he did something he's never done before, called me out.
Who did, Grover?
Yeah, at the end of his set, we played Mr. Magic.
Uh-huh.
And I said, hey, man, Peebo's coming in November 8th. Can you make it? He said, I don't think so, man. I think I'll be on the road. But if I can make it, I'll be there. So he just happened to have a window in his schedule, and it was between gigs, and I don't know from where he came. I know he ended up driving from Philadelphia to get to the studio in New York. But what impressed me so much about him was how professional he was and how he gave 100%, and how beautifully he just plays so beautiful.
He's a wonderful player.
Yeah.
I know Grover very well.
You know, he took several passes at each, you know, each time we tried to get him to play some different stuff. So we ended up using a little bit of this take, a little bit of that take. And because his playing is so consistent, it all sounds unified, you know. And especially the third track, Tonight's the Night, his work on the tenor is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Peebo sings great, and we had a whole team of people working, you know, experts, you know, working. This is one of them right there. This is the Isley Brothers thing.
Uh-huh.
I never really went that far into that bag before, you know.
So this is a new area, a new territory for you to explore.
Really, frankly, it's so I can reach people, especially younger people who like know the Isley Brothers, but they don't know Charlie Parker. They hear Larry Coryell, and if they're interested enough to get the record or come see me play, it's my wish, my desire that will lead them into the full range of the jazz spectrum as we know it, you know, in the latter half of this century, starting with Bird and Diz and all those people.
Is it frustrating for you, being such a connoisseur of your instrument? Is it frustrating for you not to get you get notoriety, but obviously, you know, not with the Rolling Stones and all these other artists? Is it frustrating?
Absolutely. And it sounds, I hope it doesn't sound inappropriate, but you know, I'm contemporaries of those people, and I've worked just as hard at what I'm doing. I think the only difference is that they do one thing really well, and I just like doing. I'm attracted to so many different forms of excellence that I can't just sit still on one thing and ride it.
Well, that's a testament to your talent, to your ability. You're able to diversify and go into other areas that most artists can't go into as well.
Yeah. But in the very wide American market, that confuses people. But I figure if I make the kind of record that is accessible to everybody, especially the singing helps. Everybody loves Peebo Bryson. I don't know anybody who doesn't just go crazy over it.
Yeah.
And you know, we did a song by Toto, and it's got a lot of airplay in areas of radio that I never get involved in before. So on the one hand, it feels a little strange. I feel like kind of naked, because out of my element, because normally I'm in a very esoteric categorization. But we really just determined a year ago that we were going to get somebody like Peebo and do some songs that would people would recognize, like the song that Peebo, one of the songs that he does is written by the group Toto, and it's paying off. And it's just a matter of time, I think, because this group, as we keep playing and extending ourselves with whatever material we play on stage, it's very, at least for me, it's fresh, it's interesting, and I try to capitalize on my experience. Not only what I've personally gone through as a player, but what I've observed in the scene, as the scene has, especially living on the East Coast, the scene, especially the jazz-oriented scene, is very fertile, it's very rich. you have players now who, at their age, of course it's in every generation you have that. You had George Benson at the age of 23, was already head and shoulders past, Chick Corea, early 20s, Keith Jarrett. Every generation has it, but always each generation has a large group of extremely gifted, like Philadelphia has a guy named Joey DeFrancesco. He's already mature. He's already there. And it's really a benefit to be able to witness that and be a part of that.
I see you also were involved with the Guitar Legends.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
How did that all come about? And
I don't know. Somebody in England got a whole bunch of money together and decided to produce it. And
what was it like for you? Obviously, all the guitar players, yourself included, were all belong there. But to play with these other people that you probably have a great deal of respect for.
I had so much enjoyment listening to the other players, and of course I enjoyed especially having a couple of solo spots there for a worldwide audience. Millions and millions of people. It was great. I thought John McLaughlin sounded fantastic. I think George Benson's. They all sounded great. Stanley Clarke gave me an opportunity to play with Stanley Clarke. And,
he's a great player.
Yeah, man, Stanley. Philadelphia. He's a homeboy.
That's right.
So I've been very fortunate to have been able to live through a very sustained, highly motivated group of players who came of age in a time when music was very, very open.
Now you're also playing in an age where exposure is very big, and you have MTV and VH1 and all of that. Do you plan on doing any video work at all, or is that something you prefer to stay away from?
Of course. No, really, once you get on television, your sales quadruple. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting. I mentally prepare myself for doing something on television every day. And I know the call will come. I don't know what form it will come, but I try to be ready either as a soloist or as a spontaneous participant in something that somebody might put together, or preferably with my group. I'd like very much to do a video with Piva. Actually, we have a video. We have a film that we did. My first project with CTI was also a film, a music film done in Brazil. It's just a matter of that getting exposure. Once that gets on one of the cable networks, it's one of the best music films I've ever participated in from the standpoint of visual quality and sound quality.
When was that done? Was that done
done in 1992. I think 1992, 93, somewhere around there, where we went to Brazil, recorded a live concert on a plaza, brought the tapes back and the videos back, and did a lot of editing and fixing. Especially the sound, a lot of the solos were re-recorded. It was basically the same solos in the same spots, but the sound was engineered up here by an experienced jazz engineer named Rudy Van Gelder. So when you see the film, you get a combination of what was done live in Brazil and fixed and repaired up here, so you get incredible sound. Sound quality. Rudy Van Gelder has uncanny ability to record the guitar better than just about anybody.
Now, when you go into a recording session, do you generally oversee everything, or do you let the
depends on who's paying for it. In the past, I've been given a budget, and when I'm in charge of that myself, I oversee every aspect of the project, and it's a lot of fun because I have total control over every note, and I'm generally satisfied, with that. But with the stuff at CTI, it's really been a team effort, with Creed Taylor having a very strong role as the producer, Plus, he always assembles a team. A lot of behind-the-scenes people who may not get the credit that they deserve for helping to create the sound. The last two albums especially. We had Don Sebesky on the one before, and this time we had Mark Sherman producing several tracks, and another guitarist named Chuck Loeb. Chuck Loeb wrote most of the material on the last album. And he also suggested that we record the Toto. So a lot of credit goes to him.
Of all the artists that you've worked with, are there any artists that you haven't worked with yet that you'd like to see yourself work with at some point? I know that's probably a tough question, but is there anybody out there that you would enjoy working with that you haven't?
A lot of people I'd like to work with. From my own generation, I'd like to play... well, actually, I did play with McCoy Tyner one time, but it was a strange situation. I'd like to do something with McCoy, and I would also very much like to do something with Cedar Walton. I play with him also, but I'd actually like to do a project where we actually get more involved, you know. And there's so many new players that I like. There's a young pianist named Kenny Drew Jr. who I really like a lot. And the guys who I haven't played with. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to hit with Joe Lovano, I think, or Joshua Redman. There's a new group of horn players. I would dig that a lot.
Now, flip the question: of all the people you have played with, who have been some of the more impressionable?
Sonny Rollins,
Yeah.
Sonny Rollins, and Sonny Rollins. I mean, he's probably the greatest that I think there ever was. You know, I never played with Train, but you know, for my generation and for the particular musical environment that I came up in, Sonny Rollins really, it was just unbelievable. I would love to play with Max Roach. That's one guy who I've not played with who I would like to play. I think Max Roach is a great drummer.
Is it something you pursued at all, or something you plan on pursuing?
Yeah. I'm going to trick him into playing with me. I have a little plan. And I have a very special place in my heart for Grover, who is one of the few people like George Benson who is totally comfortable in the more esoteric side of jazz or the more popular side of jazz. And I spoke with Grover tonight, and every once in a while I do benefits for certain causes that I think are worthy, and he expressed interest in, you know, contributing his talent to a benefit that I'm doing.
I'm surprised you didn't get him out here tonight to play with
He said he had a cold.
Oh, really? Okay.
He was very, you know, such a gentleman, you know.
He's one of the best. It's kind of funny because you both, I look at both of you as having such a passion for the music that you play.
Yeah, he's got stronger. I mean, Grover is so strong, man. I mean, every time he picks up his horn, he's playing like it's the last time he'll ever play. He really sets an example for me.
Well, it's an extension. I mean, it's an extension.
You know what's nice about an open society like we have, a free market, and you know, everybody do their own thing and see what happens. It really, you get challenged all the time. Can't sit still.
Yeah. Well, it keeps you fresh. It keeps you on your toes.
It's one thing to be able to play, but it's another thing to really play, you know, in that moment. And that's one of the privileges of being an improviser, is that not everything you do is recorded. You know, like what we just did here tonight, the notes were played and they went up in the air, and they'll never be
duplicated in the same way.
And that's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah. How would you like to see yourself placed, you know, musically one day? You know, where would you like to see Larry Coryell?
Totally not up to me. As far as that goes, I have my own very strict set of standards that I need to adhere to, and I haven't really reached that. I've gotten close on several occasions, but if I can, at the end of my life, look back and clearly see that I made some sort of contribution to advance the art form, then I will have fulfilled my mission. It's so many great. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be on the planet at a time when so many great musicians are practicing. Music is a invisible force, and yet it moves people more than any other, or at least as much as a great painting, fantastic movie, That's how I got into Buddhism, because I got very moved by seeing the changes in Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter when they were first starting to practice, and they were on my case to join them and start chanting with them, and I didn't do it for a long time, and then finally I reached a point in my life where I think I had the courage to make that commitment, because I knew it was a serious practice, and I've been doing it now for 11 years. And the practice of Buddhism, the practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is what we do, helps me to define my mission as an artist. My Buddhist practice helps me to arrive at statements like I made a little earlier about if I've made some kind of contribution to advance the art form, then I will have accomplished my mission. Because in my opinion, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And it's my responsibility to be a part of the solution. That's the way I
wanted to tell you, I saw you in a very unusual place.
Oh.
Do you remember ever playing there?
Where's that?
It's not a big metropolis.
One observation that I've made, I interview a lot of artists in the jazz and blues field in particular. An observation that I have noticed is you're also down to earth and so willing to spend time with people like myself to share your story and to talk about what you've done and what you want to do.
Well, thank you.
Is that a general, is that the way that your field and most of the musicians are in that field? Because I noticed the
Yes.
rock musicians are not that way. They have very little time for you. And the jazz artists give you all the time in the world.
Yeah. It's the examples that have been set, that's all. You learn from what you see. And, the examples that were around me, especially as I was developing it, been like that. So it seems to be the most natural, because your music is the truth about your life, so it's, you work on it and you try to always improve it, but you also are connected with that, so like you just have to kind of be the way your music is, and your music is the way you are,
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of artists wouldn't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of artists would say that the art is totally separate from the personality.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to follow that idea for a long time, because I thought logically it made sense, but I found, at least in my case, the opposite to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Very integrated. It's very there's a oneness.
Mm-hmm. A brotherhood.
Yeah, and also the integration of the spirit with the kind of person you are. I think, of course, the integration is more evident as you mature. Because very often, early in an artist's life, they spend so much time working on their playing that they, as a matter of course, neglect other areas of life. But once, at least in my life, when I was more integrated and balanced.
I'm kind of bumming out myself.
Sean, I know. Are you looking for me, Sean?
Last bus out of there. That took like a long.
Sean, are you looking for me?
Actually, I'm looking for Campbell to this one.
Oh, okay. You want to set pretty soon? Can I get an espresso? Oh,
Right now?
please. S'il vous plaît, monsieur.
The train is going to cost me a little bit much.
It's only in the last, I don't know, 10 years that I really, or less, that I'm starting to make progress with letting more melodies come out of the improvisations. I'm still, express myself mainly as a virtuoso because that's how I developed, but the melody thing I find to be a real challenge. I can go hear another player or even hear myself in various instances and just hear somebody going through the motions. I apply it to myself as well as other. And I think I have a more heightened awareness of how important it is to inject a very strong life force. That's what I learned from Grover, man. That one concert I did last year, I watched him, and he doesn't rest on his... he's a very successful... I would imagine, with those record sales and everything.
And he's fabulous to watch.
He plays like he'll never play. This is the impression.
It's his last concert.
I gotta say my thing. I gotta make that. And yet he doesn't hog the spotlight. His ability to, his discerning, the very strong discerning ability.
Very humble. Very
there's
passionate.
Power in that. There's a lot of power in that because it implies teachability.
But he lets his instrument do the talking.
Yeah.
So do you.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
See, you artists like yourself have the ability and the talent to be able to let your instrument and your playing do the talking. Most artists, you deal with these rock groups, turn the volume up to 10, and they're trying to get the quick.
I think it's interesting that somebody like Jerry Garcia has got time to have a line of clothing.
Yeah.
He designs hotel rooms. Now they named a wetsuit after him.
Right. Well, that's marketing in the 90s. So.
It's incredible. It's good to see that happen to musicians because most musicians will never make the kind of money that they would like to make. Never really be as comfortable as they'd like to be. So many stories are stories of failed struggle. And I have come to believe through my practice of Buddhism that the struggles are supposed to happen so I can reach that target.
But money isn't everything either.
Yeah, but you need it. Like if you want to fly from here to LA, you got to have some.
Yeah, absolutely.
In perspective.
Yeah.
Put it in balance. Also, there seems to be an implicit expectation as one grows older to improve the quality of life. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the quality of life is so high in the majority of sectors in our society that there's a lot of pressure, Make sure you have a computer, and especially in music, you need a computer and a lot of equipment. Everybody has their own studio. Stuff costs a lot of money.
But I think success is gauged, different degrees, and I think that we get lost in the money.
Of course.
And the toys and whatnot, and the bottom line.
Yeah, him with the most toys wins.
Exactly.
As a T-shirt. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And
what I would really like to do, and this has probably never happened, but I shouldn't even say that.
Has never happened or never will happen.
This probably will never happen. The closest that I ever saw was Round Midnight, a movie about music that features music. Of course. Good to see you. Thank you. What's your name? Frank. All right.
So, we're running tight on time. Is there anything that obviously we could go for hours, but is there anything that you would like to add?
I think you did a very good job of interviewing.
I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunities I had to interview Larry. I will never forget the Buddhist chant I shared with him before his performance and this post-show interview. His passion and determination to excel overshadowed the disappointment he expressed that he was not more widely recognized for his artistry on the guitar and his creative contributions to the jazz community. His loyal following and the critical acclaim he received throughout his career fueled his passion for creating music at the highest level. Gone but not forgotten, his music lives on in the hearts and minds of jazz enthusiasts all over the world. Thank you for taking a walk with me down memory lane. I look forward to our time together next week when I present an interview I conducted with blues legend Bobby Blue Bland in 1995. Until next time, peace, serenity, and blessings.